All right, welcome back. We are game 3004. And let me just make sure that I'm actually sharing my screen for you guys, which is something that I'm not doing yet. Let's do that properly as a proper greeting. For game 3004 in the winter 2022 semester at George Brown, and it's week 4, part 1 of our lecture recording, or recording in general. And today what I wanted to talk about was a couple things. First, we'll do a bit of admin, and then we'll get right into Blender. So for those people who want to get ready to go, yes, please, Vince, open a Blender file. We're going to start from scratch, but we're also going to do a little bit of drawing. So I'm going to also ask you guys to go to Photopea, right? Which looks like this, right? So we're going to get into that. So if you look up Photopea, we're going to use that online tool just to sketch some simple stuff that's coming up. All right, so that is that's us. Again, just to let you guys know where we are, we have completed our team contracts. That's a check. Concept and game pitch you guys did last week. That's awesome. First playable release is due this week. So that's this Sunday at midnight, 10% of your final grade for that one. And that's going to include not just your game pitch, but your first kick at the can in terms of functionality, your mechanics, your assets, all that stuff. That's due this Sunday at midnight. And then by Thursday, I'll have all the details for your project, your mid-semester project checkpoint, which is going to be due week 7 and what's required there too. So Hafsa says, do you want us to link a build too? Yeah, you'll have a WebGL build potentially, which is what I'm hoping for as well. So we'll talk about that again as we get to Thursday. All right, so what's happening? Again, we're sitting at week 4. We're talking about low poly 3D asset creation today. Again, we'll talk about inventory systems this week, as well as building for WebGL. You guys have done that thing before from last semester, but it's slightly different because now we're doing it in 3D. So we'll talk about the, kind of the process again and go through it for those people who are teleporting in from another program or another part, like they've taken this course out of order or something like that. All right, so that's what's happening this week. Next week, we'll get into more AI agents and nav meshes, and I'm going to do a bit of that this week. I'm going to kind of incorporate some of those things into week 4 because I find that that's probably a good start to get going with some content. Okay, that's what's happening. A couple things on the horizon. Well, last week, what did we do? We did presentations. You guys did awesome. For the most part, I think most of them were very well done. I understand the stuff that you're making. Some of you have also changed your project, pivoted a little bit because of some of the challenges that we were talking about last week in terms of making stuff, especially the procedural generated stuff. That's really challenging to do. So that's what we did last week. And so what are we doing this week? Lab 2, which is, the goal for this lab is to build an enemy robot. Oh yeah, it's going to be really scary. A scary enemy robot that we're going to use in our game and just for our examples. And I think it's important for us to do a model that's been made with, kind of using hard surface modeling techniques. And then we're going to create a simple sketch to start that off. We're going to start with a mesh and we're going to use that sketch as a reference, very rough reference. And we're going to potentially, this is optional. I put this optional because it depends on the time, how we have time to do it, either today or on Thursday. And we may stop at a certain point, probably around here, if we can even get to this today, because there's a lot of work to do, even just to build the robot with a simple mesh and a reference. So let's talk about the reference. The reference diagram can take a bit of time to do. Let's talk about right now. I know, hey, it's art class right away. Also in this PowerPoint, I've also included some information, things about meshes, materials, shaders, and textures in Unity, as well as some additional things that we can talk about in Blender, right? So talk about material slots, what they look like in Blender, surfaces, what they are, and some general terminology, which we're going to hit again on Thursday. I've got in here things about Blender UV mapping and what those things are. How do we map stuff? This should be mostly review for you since you've done OpenGL, but I put it in here just in case you wanted to know more about UV mapping and how we can do that stuff, especially when it comes to something like this in Blender. So again, I put it in there. It's more for your reference as opposed to me going through it and explaining it, because you should know some of this already as you've done OpenGL, and you've probably done a little bit of UV mapping and unwrapping. But if you haven't, that's what we're going to do now. And I'm going to bring up Blender to get us going. By the way, our lecture video, as always, is up online. And when I start Blender, I'm going to open or run as administrator. I find that that is just faster and better to go and start with compared to starting with a click. I don't know about you guys, but that's how I feel. So let's get into Blender right now. So that's Blender. And just to start off, we're going to leave that little cube in there for now. But what I want to do first is, whenever we build a new model in Blender, what I like to have is a reference diagram, right? And we can make a simple reference with something like Photopea. Again, it's an online editor. It's similar to Illustrator / Photoshop. So if you haven't had a chance to open that up, let's make a new project. In Photopea, we're just going to make an object that's like a blank project, all right, that we're not going to save really. So we're going to create. And there it is, some kind of, kind of thing. What we want for the robot is at least 2 views, okay? Whenever we have a reference diagram, we at least want minimum a front view and a side view, okay? At least from that stuff. And if you've never done this before, this might be new to you, that's okay. But if you have done it before, then you know what I'm talking about. Basically, what we want to do here is first, let's start with a front view. Okay, so let's do a front view. And the front view is kind of head on, so what you would see in the robot itself. And my thoughts are, and this is, you can modify this if you like, but this is part of your lab too. I'm just going to use a rectangle shape. Notice up here on Photopea, you can make shapes. You can decide on the stroke, the fill. I'm not going to make any fill here at all. The stroke, though, I am going to use a solid color. We're going to make it black, black stroke, 1 pixel, no corner radius. You notice that there is, I can declare it in a new layer, or I can unite it. I'm going to make it in a new layer just to make it easy. And I'm going to make it free in terms of size, no corner radius, so 1 pixel in size. So that's the shape. I start with that. And I'm going to make a rectangle, right? So the first thing I'd like to do is start building my robot by using rectangles. And I did it differently in other places, but the great thing about doing a rectangle is you can start thinking about how this is going to work. I'm going to go about 200 pixels here for the rectangle. And I want you to think about how wide the robot's going to be. So that's kind of the top or the side of the robot. I'm also going to build the robot body, kind of something that looks like this. So this is kind of the main body of the robot. I'm not going to use symmetry here or anything, although you could do that with tools. One thing I want to do for the robot is I want to make it so that I can connect. So again, I'm doing a really rough drawing here of what I'm thinking, right? So I kind of connect these 2 pieces together, right? So they kind of connect there. Let's make it, maybe, how about we use exactly what we did before? But for this shape, again, shape, fill, stroke, 1 pixel, width can't be 5. It's got to be 1 for the line. So make sure you change that. Okay, we don't want an arrow. We just want the shape to go from here to here. Okay, and all I'm trying to do is trying to draw the robot proportionally, and then we can kill some of these things as well. Okay, so there's the robot front. This may not look very exciting to you, and that's totally fine. But the reason why we're doing this is because we want to try and figure out if this is even doable. So I want to kind of make the front, this would be kind of the shoulder area. I'm probably going to also need a chest, right, for the robot to make the torso. And my thoughts are, let's make that a chest instead. I'm probably going to put the chest somewhere in here. So something that looks like this. So the chest is going to be there. And it's going to be, kind of this part of the body is going to be the chest. This is going to be the shoulders and the top part of the shoulders. Shoulders is going to be here. It's all going to be very square looking. There's not going to be any legs for the robot. The robot's going to float, if you will. And what I want for the head is some kind of dome, but I'm going to, for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use an ellipse to draw it up. So again, with the ellipse, I'm just going to draw out the head. Let's see if I can move that. I can, I'm pretty sure. The great thing about Photopea is just like anything else, it allows us to move stuff around. And let's just make a new layer for that on the right. Again, we're trying to do as fast as possible just to give us a sense of what I'm thinking. And this is what you guys should do as well in terms of building your, kind of robot the way it is. So I'm kind of have a robot with a head like this, right? Very, very flat looking. And so the body's going to be pretty bulky. right? I'm going to have a bit of a chest on the front as an example. And I'm thinking about putting an eye, when I describe the robot, I'm thinking about putting an eye that's in the middle of the head that looks like this. It's almost like a cyclops with a central eye that is right there. So something that's really interesting with the central eye. The arms for the robot are going to be fairly long and tapered. So right now they're not showing taper, but I want to make an arm that looks like this. It's going to be floating on the side of the robot. And the entire kind of width, if this is, front view, is too wide. The other arm on this side is going to be the exact same as this one. I'm not drawing the other one, but more or less this is what the robot's going to look like. It's going to have different colors, right, and different materials set to different parts of the body, right, as an example. And from the side view, let's do the side view now, just to give you a sense of, so we're communicating to each other what kind of thing we're making. So this is the side view. And let's say that this will be the, we'll kind of turn this side over this way. So it'll be more like when the robot's looking at us, it's our right or its left. So this will be the left side, right? Even though it looks like the right side for us. In Blender, it'll be the right side, but for us, it'll be the left side. And then it'll be the same kind of thing for the head. You kind of want to match it up step by step. There's many ways to do this kind of thing, but the idea is that you want to kind of think about the main pieces first. So what does this body look like? Let's just use some basic rectangles to define that. And so the side, I don't want to make it too wide. So I'm thinking about this part of the block. This part is going to be like this wide compared to how wide this is, right? And if we decide to go wider than this, that's okay, but that's what I want to do. And then this bottom part, I just definitely want to go like this. But instead of making it straight forward, what I want to do is taper it down. So just like we've done in the side, I want to taper the front. So it kind of goes down like this. So kind of a thinner looking robot. And again, you can sketch your robot the way you like. And in the front, I want the chest to kind of pop out. So this part here, this part will pop out. And the chest will kind of come in like this. So there'll be a bit of a chest. And in the back, what I want is a bit of a backpack. So let's go into this and select my rectangle. So a bit of a backpack in the back. So kind of like something that looks like this, backpack. And then the head will be much skinnier. So it won't go, the entire length. So it's more circular on the side, right? And more elliptical on the front. So it's going to be looking different. The arm, again, isn't going to change much. It's going to go straight down. Okay, something like this. So this is what I'm thinking. Now, if we didn't like this and if we want to make it wider or whatever, we will adjust in Blender. But the idea here is that you've got an idea of what this thing is going to look like, even this ugly drawing. Do you want us to make our own robots for the lab? Yes, that's what I want you to do. But first, what we're going to do is we're going to make this little diagram. And so you have a guide is what I'm hoping. One thing to note is I got a lot of shapes here, and we can certainly crush these down, but we don't care. All we're trying to do is quickly draw some kind of object that makes sense for us. One thing I'm concerned about is the width of this thing, and I want to mention for a guideline, that what I want to do is I do not want from here, let's say if we're going to measure from here to the arm, actually, let's undo that. From arm to arm, let me just draw the other arm here, just so you get what I'm saying here. And this is where we have to adjust the width, right? But if this is the arm, right, on the other side, roughly, then from arm to arm, what we want is for this shape to be no more than 2 meters. So it's, again, is it to scale the way we're drawing it? Maybe not. And this is something to keep in mind when we're using Blender. So from here to the edge of the arm here, I don't want this to be more than 2 meters. So kind of, I'm just communicating this with you here. So this is 2 meters. So why is that? Anyone have an idea why 2 meters, right? Maximum? Because, what do you guys think? I don't want to tell you. You should know why. Why 2 meters? What are your thoughts? And if this is going to be something, in my mind, if I was going to draw a proportion from here, again, to here, I'm thinking probably something like 1/2 meter. And just to keep it simple. So Hey, Kyle's got it to fit inside the maze. Yeah, man. That's why we want to do it. Otherwise, guess what's going to happen, right? Is if we do this, if we don't make it 0.5 meters and something like 2 meters, we're going to have a problem. How about height-wise? This looks pretty compressed, right? So I'm thinking if this is 2 meters, it might be a block, right? Like literally like a square shape, the whole thing. Maybe 2 meters by 2 meters max is what we're talking about, right? And if we're going to do that, it's too chunky for sure. It's really chunky. And we may, you know what we can do, Vince? We probably can do some adjustments here in Blender. But this is the maximum that I want. Okay, good. Now that we have a diagram, let's move on. Let's go back to Blender and start thinking about how we're going to do this with this little cube, which we're going to start with. We'll start with a cube. So first of all, I want to go into front view. So that's like the 1 key on your numeric keypad. Remember, you should start remembering these things now. Things to note about going into with our little cube that we have here. We have some stuff already. This thing is 2 meters total. So if I'm bringing up the n, the numeric transform by pressing the n key, you can see the dimensions already are 2 meters by 2 meters by 2 meters. Okay, so we want to start conforming more to what we're looking at. So that means this from here to here has to be less than 2 meters because we want to include arms. Right? So it's got to be less than 2 meters. Let's zoom in here, right? And what we can do is we can do things in object mode first, so to avoid doing some adjustments in edit mode. And so I'm thinking probably that I want, if I kind of zoom in even more, you can see these are little tenths of meters, right? So this would be like 10 centimeters, you know, that kind of stuff, everyone, because there's 10 little divisions here, right? So we want to come in, and I'm figuring that the arm is probably going to be like 30 centimeters in length. And I'm probably going to start with the body somewhere over here, right? Like let's say to this point. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 space, right? And then the arm that's 3. That's what I'm thinking. So something like 60 centimeters on each side, okay? One thing to note is we're going to be doing things symmetrically. And one of the things to do is to cut this baby in half and use a mirror modifier, which we're going to talk a little bit about. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Notice also that it's halfway into the ground. That's totally fine. We can leave it the way it is. But what we got to do immediately is cut this thing in half. We can do this in edit mode. Again, so I'm going to be in orthographic view like this and go into edit mode by just switching to modeling on the top. That's an easier way to do it. Press the 1 key again, scroll in so you can see all those divisions, right? Okay, that's all we're doing. You can scroll in with your middle mouse button. And what I want to do is I want to do something called a loop cut in the middle. So a loop cut you can access by doing something like Control R. Again, if you look at the, what I'm thinking about is I'm going to go to Edge and I want to do a loop cut and slide. That's what it's called, a loop cut and slide. You may have a different shortcut key than me, but this is where it is inside of this. I'm inside of edit mode or the modeling tab at the top, whatever you find is easier. I'm going to press Control R. When I do so, if I go towards the right side or the vertical line that goes up and down, I get a horizontal loop. If I go at the top, right, in the horizontal line at the top, I get a vertical cut, right? I want to do this. I want to get a vertical cut. Left click to, to kind of initiate it and press Enter to make that cut. Now you have a cut that's in the middle of your cube, like so. Okay, a cut in the middle of your cube. And what I want to do, right, going into, front view, again, you can go to views manually by going to viewpoint and to go to front, numpad 1 for me, might be a different value for you, right? What I want to do here is I want to go into X-ray mode, or wireframe mode, and you do that by pressing, for me, the Z key. Okay, but for you, it might be something else. Yeah, if you move your mouse around, it'll move this for sure. Thank you, Vince. So, so this is the Z key, but you can also get to it from up here. So notice my shortcut key is Z, yours might be something else, right? That's the Z key. I want to deselect all here. So if I'm in Z mode, and if I'm in wireframe mode, you're going to see something that looks like this in perspective, or like this in orthographic mode when I'm in the front view. And what I want to do here is I want to delete half of the object. So this part here. So I want to select none, so deselect all. And then I want to use, remember that box select that we talked about before. So box select mode. So I'm going to use B for box select mode and select half of my object. So that selects the front and the back vertices. Okay. Again, you've got the front and the back vertices selected. You're in edit mode or in modeling mode here.
You just did?
To box select. Yeah, so the way you do that.
What do you what do you use to switch to that view, the one you were just in?
This view? I'm using the middle mouse wheel. Holding down the middle mouse wheel for me is allow me to do that. If you don't have a 3-button mouse, remember I said you need to get one because it'll give you that opportunity to do this. Otherwise, if you try and do this with your touchpad, it'll be very bad for you. Right? So 3-button mouse. So you select none, right? And then what you want to do is select, and you can choose box select. Box select. When you choose box select, you get these little crosshairs, and then you can just select the left side like this. Then that'll kind of, I'm just showing you in 3D mode what it does. It selects both the front and the back vertices. Why? Because I'm in wireframe mode, this mode right here. If I was in solid mode and I did the same thing, let me show you. And if I just selected the front, or this part, I'm only going to select the front vertices. But because I'm in wireframe mode, then when I do that selection, then I select both the front and the back vertices, which is pretty cool. Okay, just let you know that that's how.
Like your mouse with the sensor.
Sorry?
After you do the box, you have to press enter.
When you do your box like this, right?
Yeah.
You just release your mouse and it'll do it for you. Once you do this, look, I can just release my mouse and it'll do that every time. Okay, just release your mouse. Left mouse button. That's what I'm using to do that. Okay, so once you've got this, now I want to delete it, and you can press the delete key right on your keyboard, and it asks me what do I want to delete. I can delete vertices, edges, faces. I'm going to only delete vertices here, just delete the vertices. And when I do that, I'm left with half a box, right? And if you notice, if I go into solid mode now, it should look like this, half a box. Are you with me? Check mark if you're with me, X if you're not. Sorry for the thing, guys, but we're exercising today. We're pushing our brains a little bit differently, you developers, and we're pushing you into the, in kind of looking at that 3D, space that we want to try and get used to. So again, 13, 14 people out of 40. I want at least 20. Come on, let's get 20 of you guys. Go, 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 go. Guys, we have no time. Almost like a PC, right? But except it's empty, Vineet. Empty. Is your PC empty, Vineet? Come on. All right. We got 24. That's awesome, guys. You guys are awesome. 25 with the thumbs up. All right. So now that we've got this, let's go into front mode again. So again, what I want to do is whenever I go into front view, I got to click. If I'm moving away, I got to go into Blender and go into front view. Right. So there you go. Front view again. I'm going to go into wireframe mode, and this is what it's going to look like. Let's go back now into layout or object mode. You can also switch here or just click the layout tab. In layout, what I want to do is I'm in object mode now. Object mode means the whole thing is selected and I don't have access to the vertices, edges, or faces directly. I can only select the entire object. That's what I'm doing here. So in layout mode, what I want you to do is go to the little wrench on the right-hand side. See that little wrench, this blue wrench. And I want you to click on it, go to Add Modifier, and I want you to select Mirror. And bam, you got a mirror, baby. Okay. Again, are you with me? Did you add the mirror modifier? Does it look like a box again? If it does, you're good. Check mark if you're with me. X if you don't know what I'm doing. Hey, this is how it goes. Yeah, and if this is how it goes, we're going to race today. That's what I'm seeing. I want to see those check marks, guys. Check marks, check marks. Exercise. Woohoo! Right? Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. We've got to the halfway mark, and I'm going to stop that. Oh, you guys are playing with me now. All right, let's stop this now. And now that we're here, let's go back into modeling mode. And you can see that although we have both sides showing, if I go into wireframe mode here at the top, I only have access to the right side. And whatever I do to the right, let's say, for example, I do something like move this, it moves on the left. It's a mirror. So it mirrors or symmetry in kind of halfway through. So that's what's happening here. All right. There's many ways to get to this point. I know some people are like, we can remake the cube or start it again or whatever you want to do. But at the end of the day, all I'm doing here is I've got this cube, I'm in wireframe mode, and I'm in modeling, kind of edit mode or modeling tab, all right? Cool. So now going back to Blender or to the reference, we know that we want to do this, we want to taper it in here. And we also want to bring this side in, like we said, only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 squares that we can see in the grid, which is 60 centimeters. So what I want to do here is do a box select again. Again, you can go here to the select box select to select it. Select the right side here. And what I want to do is I want you to press the G key, right? And followed by the X key, immediately followed by the X key. So immediately followed by X, okay? So what that does is it constrains things. If I press the G key, right, again, back in here, and if I press the G key, right, it allows me to move both my vertices up and down. But if I press the X key right afterwards, it constrains you around the X axis. Let me show you that again. By the way, if your three-dimensional mouse moved, or the three-dimensional cursor moved over here and you're concerned about it, don't worry about it. We can put it back by pressing Shift S, right, which is the shortcut, and then cursor to world origin, which means that three-dimensional cursor, which is this piece right here, what it is the place, it's the pivot point. A lot of times it's also the point where we can add new meshes and all that kind of stuff. That's why it's important to keep it the world center for us right now. But meanwhile, let's do this again. So again, I've undone everything. So again, I'm going to press the G key followed by the X key, and you're going to have control like this. You can move it in and you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if we do that and press left mouse button to accept, on the bottom, you can see that we've actually moved in negative 0.40259. Let's go exactly negative 0.4. So negative 0.4, you can actually put that in. And when you do that, it's exactly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units. Yes, you can. I can do that, Vincent, for sure. But we're going to do that another day, not today. Let's keep it simple. All right, so now that we got this is the top of the chest. This is the bottom of the body. We know we want to go 2 meters high total. We probably want to give ourselves a little space for the head to be in here because we don't want to go more than 2 meters. We want our AI to be something like this. I'm going to go down about approximately 3 units to give us about 3 units for the top of the head around. All right, so again, I'm just going to deselect all. So again, you can go select none. And you can use box select again, but just select this corner this time. Again, what it does, it only selects the front and back of this model, right? And what I want to do now is use the G key by itself. And if you press the G key, you notice you can do this, but if I constrain it across the Z axis, I press the Z key right after. So now you can see that I've got Z control. So, right, it kind of constrains it across the Z axis. Let me do that again. So G key followed by Z, you can pull this down, right? And that's only one side of it, but I want to pull not just those sides, but also the middle. Let's box select the middle as well. Let's do that. So box select the middle, both those two things now. Notice that the left side cannot be accessed because it's just a mirror. It doesn't really exist right now. And I want to press the G key followed by the Z key and pull this down at least 3.
Sir, I can get into that last step where you do the GX. It's not cutting it properly. Like I put in a screenshot.
Again, it's a G key. When you press the G key, what you can do is you can move this around.
First question,
like this. Yeah.
Did you select the middle,
the second time? Yes.
Y-axis?
Yeah. No, all I do is I have wireframe mode on, right? So it doesn't look like this for me. It looks like this, right? Wireframe mode. And when I use box select in front view, right? And let me undo that change so you can see it, right? In front view, if I do box select, right? Then when I just select the front, it actually selects both the front and the back automatically because it's almost like a X-ray. That's what it does. Okay, so that's how it would work. And then what you want to do is you want to select the top and the top right vertex in the front with box select mode, like so, which means that both the front and the back top and right vertices are going to be selected.
I'm sorry, sir. That was a lot of words. One more time. That last part. You lost me a little bit there.
Okay. Again, what we're doing is we're going to use box select mode. That's B, or you can use the select box select. and select the middle vertex as well as the right top vertex. Are you with me here?
Got it, got it. Okay.
Good. Now, what you want to do is press the G key followed by the Z key immediately. No other clicks. G and then Z. And then you can move this down to where you want it, which for me is going to be something like this. On the left, when I do that, it says the Z transformation is minus 0.3 something. Let's change this to minus 0.3. Exactly. Just typing it in there. And now we have the box that's down minus 0.3. On the right, we've moved in 6 units instead of the whole 2 meters. Remember, this whole thing is 2 meters from here to here, but we only play with only 1/2 of it, which is only 1 meter. That's this top part. Now what I want to do is I want to taper the bottom in, and that's what we're showing here, taping the bottom in. Now, but this doesn't quite look like this, and we probably could have done a better diagram, but that's okay, because what I want to do is kind of taper it in here. So again, what I'm doing is I'm just going to use box select mode for the bottom right vertex after I've done this selection, and I want to use G followed by the X key again to constrain across the X-axis. I'm going to bring it in so that it's kind of tapered in the middle like this. And that's probably around 3 units here. And again, if I'm not accurate, I can go really accurate and go minus 0.3. All right, and you can see that that is exactly 0.3 units now. So we have something that looks like this. If I go back to object mode, you can see that it looks like this. I have a block. It looks like this. Obviously, the side is incorrect. But for now, all we're working with is the front view, and that's how we work when we model. We work at one view at a time. Okay? I know we only got 20 minutes. I'm so sorry. So we're going turbo because I want you guys to have everything, not because I want to learn. I want to lose you guys. But if you watch the process, you should be able to do what I'm doing. Okay. But there's a problem here, guys. If we did this tapering right away, right? The problem is we lose the arm that I want to put in here. So let's undo that change. And the great thing is we have a bunch of levels of undo. What I want is another loop cut and slide up here. Right, so again, deselect all, and then what I can do is press Control R again. There's that loop cut again. What I can do is I can, again, if I kind of move my mouse, when Control R is active, I haven't selected it yet. When I put my mouse at the top, it makes a vertical cut. If I put my mouse at the side, it makes a horizontal cut. I want to make a horizontal cut, but then I want to slide it up. So click left key, and then you can slide that cut where you want it. And I want it approximately right here, so 3 units down first. And again, you can see how far you want to move it, the factor and whatever. It looks pretty good to me at minus 0.65. It's not accurate, okay? Now that we have that extra piece of geometry, notice we have an extra piece of geometry there now, right? Loop, cut, and slide is awesome because what it allows us to do is we modify from this point now, not from the top. So we can deselect all, go down and do that box select again, and if I go G across the X-axis and I kind of bring it in, notice that it does the shape that we want now. I can go minus 0.3. So now it looks a little different than it did before. Notice that in wireframe it looks like this, but in inside of kind of our object mode, it looks like this. There's the top. This is the kind of the chest of the unit, right? And let's go into the side mode again. So again, I'm just going to go back into modeling mode, go to the front, and you can see that that is the model you should have right now. Are you with me? Check mark if you're with me, X if you're not. Are you with me? Do you have a shape like this? Doesn't have to be accurate or exactly like mine. Okay. Box select for me, Kira, is B. It might be different than you. But again, if you go to select, you can see box select. It says tweak left. I don't know what that means. All right, so a lot of you are with me, about half, which is pretty good, right? That's what I'm hoping. At least half of you are with me. Hotkeys are hot, yeah. So this is the first piece. And what I want to do now is go to the right side. So I want to switch to the right side or right view by clicking the 3 button on the numeric keypad. So 3. So again, it's, you kind of click in Blender, press the 3 key, and you're at the side. Notice that this is clearly not correct. Clearly not correct, right? And again, I move my 3-dimensional cursor around, but that's okay because I can move it back to the world origin, no problem. So does that make sense? So notice that it's it's the way we want it from the front, but from the side, it's way too wide. And we want to bring it down so that it looks like what we want it in the diagram, which is about 1/2 meter. 1/2 meter means that we need about, if I go over here, that's a whole meter. So 1/2 meter is something like this. And I'm thinking probably like, instead of exactly 1/2 meter, maybe 60 centimeters, something like that. So let's bring this out. I'm going to select this side now. So box select on the back side. That's what this is, right? And again, I'm just going to use the G key across the y-axis this time to constrain across the y-axis and bring it in to about here. Okay, I got to do it on both sides if I did it this way. The other way to do this, let's undo. The other way to do this is select everything, right? And then what I can do is, if I do select all, that's everything, then what I can do is I can do a scale. So I can do from the right side, like this, I can do a scale. The scale key that you can use is actually this, and you can constrain it with by eye this way. So you select both sides, and you can move it to about here. Okay. You can also do this by the key, but notice that my Y now is 0.3, which is what I want. Okay. So this is where it looks, this is what it should look like now, where I have a thinner side, about 60 centimeters, and the front is about, like we said before, about 120 centimeters in the front. So 60 by about 120. How do I know these dimensions? 60, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times 2, 120. From the side, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blocks. Okay, what I want to do now, just to finish this, the body off from this side, is let's make this tapered. So again, deselect all, box select the bottom, and let's scale this in this time again. So we can scale it in, and my thoughts are it should probably go to about here to be really thin on the side. So again, that to me, that looks like something like, you know, let's go instead of 0.328, let's go 0.3. So we can see what that looks like. And if that's looking too small, we might be able to go and pull it out just a touch. And again, we can zoom in. I think that's probably a little bit too small, guys. Let's go 0.35, 0.35. Yeah, that's about right. Again, I'm using the tool here, but I can also use the key. I can use the S key for scaling. Okay, so there's the side, right? And we have a bit of, you know, the area here. I want to add a backpack, like I said, and I want to pull out that chest a little bit, this piece. So I want to make this chest puff out, which means this part right here, because this is the front, I want to take these two pieces and move them out this way. And the way to do that is I want to do box select, but on this left vertex here, on when I'm in the right side mode. So again, box select this part, and let's move to the move key. You can do it this way as well, right? And you can move this out so that it kind of juts the chest out this way. Now the problem with this, if I did it like this, it's kind of a straight line, which is okay, right? But I want to kind of something that looks like this in the front, right? So that means that I need another cut somehow. And I can do that even here. My first thoughts are we should probably pull this out to about just just 10 centimeters is enough. So something that looks like this. Again, you can zoom in here to get it exact if you really want to, or close. It's not, the numbers may not make sense, you know, as an example, but it looks like something like that. That's what I recommend, just like say 10 centimeters. And I want another loop cut down here. So let's do the other loop cut. So Control R for the loop cut. We'll slide that up to about there. Okay, kind of in the, you know, like 3 units down. I'm going kind of symmetrically. So again, 60 centimeters down, there's another cut. Okay. And now we have the side that looks like this. The front looks like this. What I want to do is I want to take this one and push it out a little bit to give more of a squarish front, just a bit, because I think it might look better, right? So again, I want to deselect this part, box select, and just move this out a little bit, just to give it a more of a front like that, okay? And for the back, I said I want a backpack, right? Maybe this backpack here. Well, I can actually adjust it the other way around. Let's make this back a little more squarish. So again, I want to grab this one right here and pull it out so it's kind of right here, directly there. And again, something like 0.03. If I put 0.03, you can see it kind of moves it in a little bit too much, in my opinion. I think it should probably be about there. Again, you can just use your eye for this, but that's where I want to put it, like kind of in line with this one. And now what I want to do is I want to make the backpack stick out from the back this way, right? So the way to do that is, again, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not going to be accurate, guys. But what I want to do is I want to grab these two kind of verts on the back. There we are. And I want to pull this out to here. But if I do that, I'm going to get this weird thing happening, right? So I don't want to do that. Instead, what I want is, let's use extrude. So extrude, you can access with the E key for extrude. So if I press E to extrude, right, on this one, right? So if I press E, then I can extrude, and you can limit it across an axis like I've done here. You don't, it's actually automatic or in this mode. And I want you to pull it out just 10 centimeters like here, approximately. Let's put that like at 0.1. There we go. So that's what the backpack will look like now, kind of a bit of a backpack. Side, the front is going to look like a bit of a chest, you know, whatever, taper. And you can see that this is the robot shape that I've got going on. It's not very complex, right? But I'm going with some vertices at a time. And the reason why I'm doing it this way is there's a couple of underlying motives for me. One of them is I want you guys to learn how to control vertices, not just faces and edges. And with vertice control, we have a lot of potential to do stuff. Here's the front view. Front view's got two cuts, right? You know, for the taper, right? And the side view looks like this. So what I want to do now is you could actually rotate this as well to make it kind of stick out even more. Let's do that just to make it more interesting looking. So notice that this is the back selected. I can press R for rotate, or you can press the rotation object there and then rotate those two vertices to make it kind of stick out, something like that. And notice on the bottom it says -9. Let's make it -10%, 10 degrees. So a 10-degree rotation is what we're doing here. You can also do it numerically by pressing the hotkeys. It's fine. Okay. You went for a slim model, no problem. Less power consumption. So there's what this looks like. Pretty good. And we've got a pretty decent front for the model. Let's take a look and see what it looks like from layout mode. Layout mode, this is what the actual object will look like when we bring it into Unity, probably on Thursday. All right, we need some arms. Let's do that first, and then we'll be done for the day. So I know we're running late. Bear with me, guys, and we'll get the arms done. So again, in modeling mode, in front mode, I want to add more you know, kind of shapes. And the way I can do this is, notice where if your 3D cursor is somewhere over here by accident, again, press Shift S, and then just select it so it goes to world origin, please. Again, that's Shift S. And then select cursor to world origin. Yeah, that's what you need to do. So kind of makes it in the middle. I want to add a new mesh. And the way to do that is you can go to add, and you can add whatever you want. I'm going to add in a cylinder, right? That's what I want to do, cylinder. Notice how big it is. It's massive. Let's also cut down the number of vertices, the complexity. Let's cut the number of vertices, or cuts, if you will, down to like 8. Okay, so 8. It's almost like an octagon, right? And what I want to do is I want to take this after it's been cut and move it to the side. Keep moving it until you see two cylinders, one on one side and one on the left side. They're massive right now because, you know, they're regular sized. And if you know, look at it, there's like two cylinders that are like this, okay? What I want to do is I want to scale this down a lot, right? So I want to press the S key, or you can use the scale, right? This one here. And there's a couple ways. If you use this key right here, so there's a little green square. If you use this little green square, you'll stretch it both ways, right? But be careful. What happens is on the side, it doesn't do it. Only does it from the front. All right, we'll have to do it on the side as well. So let's undo that. Go back to this. And let's scale it as an example, just by pressing the S key and just scale it in. And what we're going to do is a couple of transformations. We're going to scale it so it's probably something like I said, 30 centimeters or something like that. And if we calculate how big it is, notice the scale goes to like 0.156. Well, if I undo that, how wide is this object, right? Because we can look at the local scale of this object. How big is this object? Well, you can clearly see that originally it was 2 meters wide. So if it's 2 meters wide and we want to go to 30 centimeters wide, again, let's use the calculator here, right? So I want to go 30 centimeters, but it's 2 meters, right? So we want to go to 15% of what it's supposed to be, okay? So that's what I want to do. So we can do that too. So we can press the S key and we can go to, again, 0.15, and that'll get it to exactly what we want, 0.15 in the scale. But that's in all ways. Now it looks like more proportional. Don't worry about where it is. We're going to move it closer, right? And that's what we're going to do first. So first we scale it to 0.15. We can move it closer where we want it. Remember we said we're going to move it to this point right here, right next to the body. And it's got to be within the 2 meters. Let's bring it even a little bit less than 2 meters, just so that the whole shape is under 2 meters in width, right? And what I want to do here is I want to expand it now. And again, notice where the arms go kind of further down here. We can deselect all, select with the box on the bottom, and just drag it down to where we think it should be. So again, notice that it's about right there. My thoughts are it should probably be down to about this point, which leaves about 40 centimeters from the bottom. That's my thoughts, something like that. 40 centimeters from the bottom, okay? And deselect that, and let's go right to the top now. So again, select the top, and then move this all the way until you're at the top. And you can be as accurate as you want by zooming in, right? So if I zoom in, right, you can go zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, and you can see that you can get really super accurate here, or pretty close to where it needs to be just by the eye. Same thing with this part, the bottom, right? So again, if I looked at it from the top, if I press the shift key and the middle mouse wheel, I can pan without using the hand, without using this little hand. I can also use the hand and do the same thing, right? But then sometimes that happens, which I don't like. So that's why I kind of like to pan around by the shift key and the middle mouse wheel. Okay, so you can kind of zoom in, scroll in with the middle mouse wheel, and you can see that it's not quite accurate, right? If you really want to get super accurate, you can deselect all and just grab this bottom part and bring it up to where we think this division is, which is about right there. And so that's more accurate for where we want. But we want it to be a little bit tapered. These arms are kind of ugly. Let's taper them in this way. So scale across the x-axis just a little bit. Right, so taper the arm a little bit. And let's look at it and see what it looks like on the side. Let's taper in the arm on the side as well. So scale across the y-axis from the side, just so that it's kind of in a little bit there too. Now you see an arm that's kind of the same from both sides. Yeah, the arms are done. Still not working. Might be some funny setting mess up. I'll sort it out later. I do tend to get into the preferences and start twiddling. Sorry. All right, I know. And by the way, I'm going to put this one up anyway, worst case scenario, guys. So you can always use my robot as opposed to yours. But I recommend making it yourself too, because you guys are students and you should know how. All right, so now that the only thing we're missing is the head, and that's the most tricky part. So let's do that part. And then I know we're going to go over. If you guys got to go, don't worry. I'm going to keep recording. And this way you can always follow along. And we'll start from this shape on Thursday. So for the head, it's pretty simple. Shift A, or you want to add a UV sphere. But we want to have way less complexity than this. This is too much. I'm thinking something like 16 rings, 16 segments, and 8 rings. Like really low, like something that looks like this. Okay, don't go more than this. And then what you want to do is move this shape up to the top above the body. Okay. We need to get rid of half of it because remember we're mirroring. So half of it's got to disappear. This piece right here, this half, right? So deselect all. And what we want to do is do the same trick. We want to use box select to select half of the model. So again, you can go box select and select the left half. That's the one we want to get rid of. And then just press the delete key and select vertices. And now, even though we deleted half, we still have the other half because this is kind of what if our object was like this? It's crazy, right? It's not going to be like that. But that is part of it right there. We want to scrunch this down so that it fits within that 2 meter mark. There's a lot of work to do, right? So let's select all, the top only, this part. So just the part with the, the sphere. We want to scrunch this down, and the way to do that is to, again, notice that it's 2 meters in height. We want to make it go to 30 centimeters. So that's like 0.15 everywhere. So again, I'm going to scale to 0.15, right? But the problem with that scaling is that it separates the object into 2 halves like this. And that's not what we're looking for. So let's undo that. And instead, what we'll do is we'll scale in 2 parts. Scale across the z-axis, 0.15, which is what we want to do. So I constrained the scaling across the z-axis. And then on the right, you can see that we definitely have to scale across the y-axis even more than that. So scale across the y-axis, 0.15. And you can see that that is pretty good in terms of the way it looks, but it's pretty darn wide, right? And we want to kind of bring it in this way as well. So again, we don't want to scale this time. We go to the front. Let's move this piece down so it's kind of more in the position we want it to be in. We probably have to even go even further. That's kind of a wide head, man. Ooh, crazy head, right? Just zooming in here. And what I want to do is, without selecting the middle, right? I want to deselect the middle here, right? So I can only select this part, but not the middle. I want to move it in. So the way to do that is select everything but the middle vertices. And then there's a couple ways to do this. If I move it in a little bit, it kind of moves the vertices. And then I can do a scale across the x-axis. So scale across the x. And what it's going to do is a little bit at a time. This is kind of by eye thing. We kind of move a little bit at a time and move it only, scale only across the x-axis until you get the shape that you're looking for. So move and then scale across the x-axis until you're kind of in that band. And I'm thinking something that looks like this. So my thoughts are it should be 1, 2, 3, 4 centimeters, or 40 centimeters wide. The height is not quite right, right? The height is not quite right. Let's undo that. So let's select the whole thing again. And if you bring it down, you can see that it doesn't quite meet within the 2 meter mark. And we could either accept it because this is what it looks like right now. And it's pretty narrow. We may want to make that head a little bit wider because that's kind of looking weird, but that's kind of the thing we pictured, right? Remember the diagram, right? So that's kind of what we thought about. And we could leave it like this, but I want to add some more geometry in the middle, just to add that eye. So again, from the side, the other thing I want to do is it's pretty in the much in the middle. I want to move it towards the front. So I'm going to off-center the head a little bit by moving it this way, just a little bit towards the front. And you're going to see why in a second. So it's kind of more towards the front. There's going to be more back. It's a robot. It's not a human, right? And it's not the most exciting robot because we don't have time to make it exciting. We're past 6 already. So what I want to do is deselect. And notice I have these faces here, right? And I have a bunch of other ones. So in layout mode, what I have is the robot will look like this so far, okay? We need that central eye, and what I want to do is add it right in here. That's what I want to do, right? So let's do that in modeling mode. Again, I'm zooming in right into the head, and I want to add more geometry. What I can do is loop, cut, and slide, exactly, a football head. So I want to do a Control R. Now notice that there is an issue up here. It doesn't quite do the loop all the way to the top. And that is an issue. All right, but you notice I made my loop. You can loop, cut, and slide wherever you want, but I want to kind of go right halfway. So here's something for those people who know about modeling. Is this a problem at the top? What do you think? This thing here, is this a problem right now? The problem is, right now it's not. These are all, triangles. That is definitely a problem, right? But this here is a quad, actually. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, and, well, there's nothing here. I highly recommend for us, we make a connection from here to the middle. And the way to do that is press the K key. It turns into like a little knife. Select that vertex. I'm doing this in normal mode, so shaded mode, not not wireframe mode. And I'm just going to kind of click there and click the middle and then click again. And then after that, press enter to select it. So you click it again, and press enter to make that cut. And it's only good on this part. This is the only problem here because of this loop cut we made. We don't have to do a loop cut on the back, so we don't care about the back. But we're only adding geometry here. But we're also going to have the same problem underneath, and we can't really get to it so easily. So we could do a couple things. We could hide some of these panels, or we can just zoom in and take our chances. I think I'm going to do the zoom in right now because of the time. So again, I'm just going to press the K key, select that vert, and then select the middle vert. You can kind of see it, and then press the enter key to make that cut. Okay. So now I've got that loop cut, and it's a good one. It solves that problem at the top where we had that weird quad, and we have a triangle there. Again, for organic modeling, triangles are no good. But for us, it's okay. So this is pretty cool. I want to, now that I have that extra piece of geometry here, I also want to make 2 more cuts here and here to give me that eye shape that I want, because I want to kind of extrude it from about here. All right. So how do I do that? I can make another loop cut. So Control R to make that loop cut on this side this time. And let's press enter. And notice on the bottom, it gives us a number of cuts. Let's add in 2 cuts, which kind of gives us that shape that we want. It's kind of like another way of subdividing is what we're doing, right? So we're subdividing that. And if I go another one, 3 cuts, that's pretty good because now we're getting more geometry. The more geometry we have, the better we can work. Let's do 1 more cut, 4 cuts. And now we have the geometry that we want, 4 cuts. Okay, without us having to do too many cuts. Okay, that's what we want to do. Now that's a lot of geometry to add for an eye, but we need to do it because we want to kind of extrude this part and have supporting geometry on the side. So deselect all. And then now we have all this extra geometry we can use. So again, what I want to do is shift into face select mode. And to do that, you can press the button up here at the top left, or you can press Control Tab, which allows you to this little menu to come up. So what I want to do now is I can select the faces that I want. I'm using circle select. Again, you can do the circle select by going here, circle select. We did that last time we made the maze. C for circle select, B for box select, right? And what I want to do here is I want to extrude this out, and I need to use the E key to extrude. So E to extrude. Okay, we're almost done. So E to extrude here, right? So again, E to extrude, and notice it kind of pulls out. And I want to go just a little bit out. Again, by eye, I'm thinking something like this, right? And that is something like 0.02 meters. 0.02 meters, right? There is a bit of a problem here, right, at the side, because not only did it extrude all of these, but it also did kind of take away our connection in the middle. And we could certainly leave it this way, but I think it's best we put these together, and there's a way of doing that. So let's deselect those and go back into vertex select mode, but not before we want to kind of select these ones. And I'm in solid mode or whatever you want to call it, solid mode. This is wireframe, and that's solid mode up here. I want to stay in solid mode, and I want to select these 4 vertices. So select, 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 select. And I want to use this just to pull it open a little bit. Notice that I'm like almost like doing open heart surgery, open eye surgery here. So I can do this. I can have like 2 eyes, like one on one side, one on the other. But one thing I know is that I'm not going to need these faces inside of here. Let's get rid of them. So again, Control into face select mode, get rid of these faces, press the delete key, which will allow you to remove faces. So the faces are gone. And now we have a hole in the middle of the thing, but we want to bring these vertices closer. So again, what we're going to do is go back to vertex select mode and bring these, just select these ones and bring them closer. We're not going to do clipping. Notice on the right here, you can select clipping. Clipping means that as soon as I bring them closer, 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 then they're going to clip together, right? So that way, I can't pull them apart again after they're close together. And I need to do clipping because this way, it's going to connect the right side with the left side. If I don't select clipping in the mirror modifier, then that'll be a problem. Okay. Tom, I did not appreciate that. Why? That image. Oh, I'm so sorry. Ah, this is a way. There is a way. Yes. You can use merge at, we can go, if you wanted to do something to merge vertices together, then what you can do is you can go to mesh, cleanup, and then you can go merge by distance, Vincent. And then what you can do is when they're close together, you can get rid of the vertices that are very close. We don't need to do that right now. We'll do it afterwards when we clean up. All right, cool. So we've got this part right here. We've got our eye, right? And we've got enough subdivisions where we have a bit of a visor or some kind of eye that's in there with our weird robot head. Yay. Guys, I think I want to stop here and just be done with it. We don't have to stick out anything else beyond this. So if I go back now into layout mode, my robot kind of looks like this, a funny robot with a football for a head and some arms. And if you think this was too much for you or whatever, really guys, this is very, very, very easy. What we've done so far, all it is just manipulating things that we already know how to do and just adding additional things. Now, if you don't like the head, let's suppose you don't like the head, you can make it slimmer. So again, from the front, again, this is all one piece. So this cube is not a cube anymore. It's a robot. We're going to change the name of that in our outliner, right? And what we want to do here is be careful. Don't apply the mirror modifier yet. Let's go back into modeling mode. And if you want to change the head shape, right, then again, what you'd want to go is into wireframe mode and select the head from the middle vertices. So just from the middle verts here to the right. And once you select those vertices, again, what you might probably want to do is bring it in just a touch, just a little bit, and scale across the x-axis. That's the best you can do, all right? If you scale across the x-axis, you can bring it in just a bit more, and then it'll look a little better, than what we had before. The only problem is the way we did the eye. So if I was to go back into layout mode, you can see that the eye is quite wide now. And if you wanted to make the head more this way, so kind of stick out this way, but you can only do half of it as well from the side. So again, take a look. If I go into modeling mode and now I can go to the right side, and let's say, for example, I want to get this part of the head moving this way, so a little bit kind of pointed forward, I can do the same thing, not include this center vertice line. So I'm not going to include this one, just this part. So again, I can use B select, nice little tool, and pull it this way. And now I can kind of pull the head out so it kind of sticks out this way, so closer to, the front, right? Which makes it a little bit less symmetrical, a little bit nicer. And you can do a lot more changes to the head. You can make the head so that the back isn't straight and so on. It's really up to you how far you want to take this. I'm going to stop here because I think it looks okay. And if you wanted to pull out the eyes more, you can do that. There's a lot of stuff you can do. So let's save it here. So Control S for save. And I'm going to call this, I got a couple of robots happening already. I'll show you those ones afterwards. And let's go up and put that inside of our workspace. So I'm going to make a brand new workspace for us. We're going to call this GAME3004 in the winter 2022. This is just our workspace in the downloads folder for me. I'm going to call this week 4, right? So this is where I want to save it, right? So I want to make that go in there, and then change this to robot.blend. And this is the first step. We're going to kind of continue this on Thursday. Okay, so that's where I'm going to put this robot.blend, the one I made, ugly the way it looks. I'm going to put this up on Blackboard for you guys. So on Blackboard, let's do it. You can always go up and again into week 4. Where's content? Week 4, I want to add in a new item. We'll call this the robot.blend is what we'll call it. So you identify what that is, and I'll just pull that in from my operating system. So you can always go and check out what I did. Is it good? Is it not good? Well, we can always talk about it. But the idea here is that I want you guys to be able to, kind of check out what I did and compare your files to my files and see what it looks like. Worst case scenario. Tombot. Let's see what that Tombot looks like. I'm just curious. Woohoo! Yours is better than mine, Vince. Way better than mine. It's nice and slim. It's a slimmer model than mine. Woohoo! That's awesome. Love the belly. It's amazing. Yeah, it's great. And that's the thing. That's where we're going to roll. Any questions before we stop for the day? So we started off with a reference diagram and Photopea. Very bad. But again, it gave us an idea of what we wanted to do. Even this silly diagram was able to help us out with what we wanted here in Blender. We had an idea of what we're going to do, right? This is what our model looks like right now. Remember, we can always come back and modify this and add refinements and so on. Justin's asking, is it fine to work on your own for today too? All labs are individual. Okay, so yeah, it's totally fine to work on your own. So that's kind of the way we're going to work. And for Thursday, you're going to need this model or something like that for Thursday. Again, just be careful about the legs because we're not going to do any animation. And because the arms, both arms, the right arm and the left arm are here, that's okay. One thing I did not do, just to let you guys know, is I did not apply the mirror modifier. Please leave it like this for now because on Thursday, what we're going to do is come back in here and maybe make a couple more changes before we apply the modifier. If we apply the modifier now, then it's not going to be symmetrical, right? So please leave this mirror modifier unapplied. Don't check this button in the modifier section for Thursday. And that's it for me today, guys. It's a robot, give it tank tracks. I agree, Kira. Clap track, for sure. You can also make we can also talk about other things we can do here with a robot to give it a wheel if we really want to. But for now, all we want to do is this little silly body. And what can we do in here, on Thursday? Let's get back. When we talk on Thursday, we're going to start with this shape, and then we're going to go from there. Questions before we go for the day? Learnings. How about some takeaways for today? You could totally do it if you had more time. But again, I want to give you the basics. I know we're way over time, guys, but that's okay. What I want you guys to think about is how far you could take this. You can take this way farther than what I've done. And you can see that what I want to show you is how long it takes really to do more than this and be more accurate. Remember, we can do a lot more detail on the body. I can add other depressions. I can use other kinds of things to give this model a lot more detail, but we're not going to do that today. All right, we're just going to stop here. We've done a little bit and just enough to make you dangerous. Okay, any questions? Not yet. Yeah, UV mapping is going to be very interesting. You're going to see how that works. It's very, very different. Anyone else have any questions around this? Reflections and takeaways? How do I contact you? Email through your George Brown email to my email. Okay. Anyone else? All right. That's it for me for today. We're going to move on. And I'll see you guys on Thursday. Looking forward to seeing you all. And we'll stop recording this now, and I'll take some questions outside of this right now. All right.